dedication to the property to do that. My feeling is probably not. They probably prefer it to be maintained by the apartment complex. So
Exactly.
that's fine, but in the future, this will be another question coming up someplace else, and it probably won't be on public. It will need to be on public record right away to do it someplace else.
Kevin, can you just show me exactly how the bus would turn around from here? So it's coming in on Jefferson, right? And then what's
I
going
think
down
it's right now it's coming and turning around here. So it would probably still do that and pick up between the Sandhill apartments, but then it would go back out and pick up there.
Okay, and that's where your concern was coming in. Once it's full, will it still be able to?
Yeah, will they still be able to do that? And then they may be ending up doing like a 3-point turn to get it back around it. They could do the same thing up into the paddocks, I suppose, that they could come in and do a 3-point turn because it comes up in here. It's just a little crowded to do that.
Okay.
And like I said, it didn't even cross my mind because I walked to school. That was the policy in town. So.
I like to bring some characters up. I mean, I think it's hard to believe it's oversight in a way because it isn't greatly needed, and I would never thought that.
Yeah.
Only thing I'm looking at now is the only thing I would even prefer.
And that's was one of my concerns, but you know what it takes to do that. That means public hearings at the plan commission, public hearings back at the town council. So I was.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Fees and stuff to do that again too.
The reason I'm looking at that, though, is just like what you talked about, you maybe set precedents for other things in town. Normally it would be in a public right of way, of being in added to the PUD, it would not be setting precedents for anything other than showing ideas.
I guess I might question that, Barry, because even the PUD shows setbacks. And I'm going to be violating the setbacks by doing this.
Right, but I mean, that's why you're here.
Yeah.
Now.
Right.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, one more added thing.
Right.
As far as permits or anything like that goes, Kevin, in any other situation, once we issue a building permit, it goes with the building or any incidental structures. I would not require you to get another building permit at that time. And since this is residential and it's a pickup place, it's under 500 square feet, I can authorize that without having to get a construction design release from the state. So I would say that you've got what you need right now with the permit to go ahead and do this.
Okay. So it sounds very positive. I will plan on putting things together and coming back to you in December, I guess.
Sounds good. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure, JD, you can hear us, right? And make sure we can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
But yeah, the people in the audience,
What do you want me to leave us at?
Just leave it on there.
Okay.
Jonathan, can the rest of them hear us okay? And
Yeah, Emily, can you hear us now too? If you want to unmute for a second. Not sure what else.
is there only one person there?
No, there's 4 phone calls. There she is.
This is Emily.
Can you hear us?
Yes, it sounds like you're in the middle of, has the meeting already started?
Discussion on a separate topic. They haven't started on any of the hearings yet, so that'll coming up here soon.
All right. Do I just stay like I am now?
Yeah, and, there'll be a chance for input and they'll ask for it on the specific hearing. So if you're not speaking, I'd ask you to put yours on mute just to avoid any feedback issues.
Okay.
Thank you all for your patience. Looks like we're up and running.
Well, we'll hear.
Here we have 3 petitions on the agenda for this evening. one I think Mr. East today is going to take care of. This is petition 2020-015B. On behalf of Kim Cook.
Good evening. Yes, James East today on behalf of Kim, Mr. and Mrs. Cook. I have Mr. and Mrs. Cook in the back here and actually in the middle. And then I have Dave Kaiser with me, who is the architect on the project. And basically what we're looking to do, I show my age every time I come here. I shouldn't do this, but basically this is the old marina, what I called the Allen Marina when I was a kid. And this has been raised for many, many, many years. But amazingly enough, when I was down there looking at it, the original slab is still there. And the reason I know that is because when I was a kid working there, they had a ramp down in the lake that you could back boats down in the lake on a track. And in fact, that ramp and track is still there.
Wow.
So it's the original slab or the base of the old Allen Marina. Mr. and Mrs. Cook have purchased the property and they would like to build a residence on the property. I think I've set it out. Dave has done some excellent drawings and plans for it. I would indicate to you that I think it's very important to note a couple things. Number one, there is a retaining wall there already. And that retaining wall was the wall of the building. And that would stay, and we would basically work from that point toward the lake. And then the second thing I'd point out, it's so confusing, but I'll do it anyway. The road is actually owned by the property owner. This is one of those famous easement situations. And there was an actual lawsuit on this property many, many years ago that I was involved in. And the Court of Appeals determined that the people that were on the lakeside actually owned to the center line of the railroad right away. And so that's the way it is, and that's the way they purchased it. So we're looking to have you grant a variance of 20 feet on the lakeside. I went north 2 or 3 properties. First property to the north is 14. Second property is 9. Third property was someplace between 10 and 15. On the south side of the property, there is no residence. So by your ordinance, I think we look at it 25 feet. So if you take the average, and we don't do that, but if we would take the average, then with the north and the south, it would be 19.5 feet lakeside setback. And the reason I said we don't do that is because your ordinance also says for a minimum of 25 feet, whichever comes first. So we're asking a variance of basically 5 feet off of that 25 foot. Ms. Marshall, did I confuse it?
Yeah. I just want to understand, so there's the lakeside setback,
Correct.
then the other setback is the one that you're saying is going to be 20 feet?
No, we're asking for 20 on the lake.
Okay, so you haven't gotten to the other one yet?
Yeah, the other one we're asking for 3.5 feet, but that's so confusing because we own all the way across the road. And so what I did was look at the right-of-way, which is an easement right-of-way, and it looked to me like, particularly Mr. Kaiser set that up very well, looks like it starts at about 3.5 feet from the retaining wall in the north end, and then it gets bigger as you go south. And it looked to me like it went to about 5.5, 6, 7 feet on the south side.
Yeah, probably about 7 feet.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm confused about what exactly. This is not one lot with the house to the north?
No, no,
It's a separate lot completely.
yes. But it includes,
But there's also a driveway going into the West Shore Circle.
yeah, it includes across, actually, the county has, in my opinion, don't have it right because the property is one big parcel that includes across the street to the center line of the railroad.
This is the one that Chuck talked about.
But if I look at this first picture here, Mr.
Right,
This is part of the property?
yes,
This is not, this is.
that's correct.
How is this part of the property? I mean, that's what, 10 by 12 or so?
Well, it's because the road, underneath the road is also part of the property.
So here's what it looks like.
Here's
Yeah.
Can't go
This is
underneath.
the picture I'm looking at.
Here's the property, right here.
But this is also,
Yeah, that's this corner right here.
no, this is it. There's a lot, this shows that blue over here. That's what I'm questioning.
I think it was all the way.
Yeah,
There's a weird little square,
right.
and all by itself.
That's what he's questioning.
That's
Yeah.
part of the property, but it's non-contiguous.
I think what happened, and I didn't go back and run chain of title, but I think what happened, it was all the way down, and then they deeded off or granted off for the Allen subdivision, for the road for the Allen subdivision, is what I think happened.
But this is the property.
In the survey, they show it, but they say not part of the survey,
But it was part of
but
the
it's part of
property.
the property.
This is, this is all the property, and there's an easement on this.
Right. So that-
Dave, could you show
Sure.
that's true.
people over there? Thank you.
So we're talking about this little rectangle right here, which is part of the property.
And, hey, Jim,
Yes, ma'am.
was this one where Chuck was talking about last time that
This
this
here-
is now
and
one
this is part of
property?
it,
Yeah.
Meaning there are no, there's
Property line
no
has-
easements needed to be.
So that little
That's
fence
correct.
on the other side.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really screwed up.
It is messed
I know, this is a very one.
It is.
And what are the,
This-
I'm sorry, I don't mean to get you off.
No, no, that's fine.
So they have this road, yeah. So if I have an accident
Property,
on that-
how's that true?
Well,
Particular
the
spot
Board
on the
of
road.
Appeals ruled that, and
I'm on their
there's a
property.
case called
Yeah.
Montgomery
Yeah.
versus
Mr.
Lynn
President.
that deals with the property right
President.
there.
I just got a
And
weird.
the court ruled
We
that
got three conversations on it.
highway is an easement.
Yeah, we got too many things going on here. Hey, we need to get this one thing at a time here, because we got one question answered over here, and another one over here, and nobody's listening to all that's going on. Back to you, Mr. Easterday, and we'll direct questions just to you.
To answer your question, Ms. Marshall, the court has ruled that the Indian Trail that became State Road 17, that became West Shore Drive, is an easement for the public right-of-way, and that the owners own it subject to the easement.
And the easement is defined as what then?
It's the right for the public to drive through there and for the county to maintain.
Okay.
That's non-buildable.
And Mr. Easterday, and just to clarify that court ruling, that's on this property, but not every property that goes down
That's
through.
correct. You have to look at every property.
Every property is individual, so not all properties are like that, but this one is.
And I apologize because I get the board confused on occasion because I'll say this is not an easement, this one is. And the reason for that is the original grant to the railroad determines whether it's an easement or not. The 1883 deeds to the Terre Haute and Logansport Railroad, some of them say, I deed to the railroad. Others say, I grant an easement to the railroad. Your property says that. I grant an easement to the railroad. And so when the railroad vacated in 78, that easement went back to the adjoining property.
Did you have another question? Dan? In looking at the drawing of the house, it looks like there's a walkway going from the road to the middle of the house. Elevated walkway.
Correct, that old bridge.
And that's how far from the retaining wall?
That would connect the retaining wall to the house. And at that point, it's probably about
Looks like this.
How many feet?
10 feet or so.
So where is this 3 feet, 5?
Well, the retaining wall is actually on that easement. So the retaining wall is 7 feet into the easement. So we're asking for like 3.5 feet from the easement, not the retaining wall. That's where we come up with the 3.5 feet is now, that 3.5 feet plus 7, you got 10. If you look at the,
So the present retaining wall, I can't, if you're asking for 3.5 feet from the retaining wall now,
No,
From the-
no,
from the
it's on the roadside, Mr. President.
so there's gonna be a new retaining wall for it.
no, we're actually just gonna, right here is the retaining wall. And then this is the easement. The easement is actually closer to the lake than the retaining wall, by about 7 feet at this end and about 3 feet at this end. And so what we're going off of is we're assuming that the setback.
So we're talking about the blue line, it's the east from this point.
Right.
Okay.
So we're saying we'll be roughly 10 feet from the retaining wall, but that'll be 3 feet from the easement.
And where is the entrance to the garage coming from?
We're gonna have to cut in the retaining wall at the south corner and build a little ramp there.
So it's going to be,
Right
have to
there.
be in here someplace.
This blue line here, the actual property goes to there.
Goes to this.
There's a, we got the retaining wall at the south end with a fence on top of it. That's where the property line is.
So the original retaining wall that's there now, that's, okay. And that actually, there's about, what, 3.5, 4 feet between that and the road.
Yeah, up here, there's, well, between the roadway easement, this dotted lines roadway easement, it's about 2 feet here, and it's probably about 7 feet down there. So that retaining wall is way out into the easement, basically. And what we're saying is, well, 3.5 feet from the easement, that leaves a little about 10 feet or more between the retaining wall and the house.
This bridge comes all the way through and ends right at the road,
Right.
where the road is. It comes through the retaining wall, it goes through it to the other side.
In that one picture, it has it looking like it.
Yeah, it's just that there's a better one actually. There's a better one. Especially- Yeah, there you go.
So this shows you what you're talking about.
Yeah.
This is in real time here. This is property, here's the wall that he's talking about.
And that black line is that easement.
This is from GIS.
There's the wall.
So, well, and the bridge would be uneven, or, you know.
Yeah,
The
the
bridge is gonna come
existing wall
across
would be
there.
on the easement, and the bridge would come out, yeah, to it.
To that.
But it's sort of like an elevated sidewalk.
Is that by the boat launch? Right down the hill, that comes on the left-hand side, the
By
boat
the-
launch
it's
is
by the-
further on the left?
Yeah, it's by the
And
cemetery.
we'll have questions coming from the audience later, please.
So that's what it looks like. There's the. Comes out from there.
Mr. Eubler, are you following all this? I know it's tough because we're pointing at things over here.
Yeah, I'm trying to. If Chuck can show me what he just showed you, that'd be helpful.
Okay, can you see it there, JD?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, and right there next to the road,
Yep.
that white line there, that is the retaining wall that he's talking about now that's in
Yep.
place. Where the dark black is, that's
Yep.
where the easement is, so that that bridge coming off that second floor there, walkway will come right out to that fence there.
Okay, and does that bridge then, if somebody were to step right off it, are they stepping right onto the road, or is there?
Right onto the road, at road level,
Okay.
okay?
Yep. Thank you.
There's probably actually about 5 feet of grass there between the retaining wall and the pavement,
At that far end.
but
Not-
at where the bridge is.
It's not where the bridge is.
Really, you're still 5 feet from the end, so they're not gonna step out right on the road.
No,
Here's the pavement right there, and this is grass and then the retaining wall.
Okay. In these drawings, it looks maybe a little misleading, seeing, like right on the road.
Yeah.
So that, this is not correct then.
Well, that view isn't, depicting where the road is very well. Pavement is actually right there.
Right here, where is
This
this?
is the pavement.
Can I ask a question about just lot size? Or are we done with that part?
I'm sorry?
Can I
No,
just
you
ask?
can ask questions.
Okay. The size of the lot, 'cause it's so weird. I just
What?
want
I'm
to,
sorry.
the size of the lot.
Yeah.
What does that, you know, I think it says is a quarter of an acre.
correct,
But is that all of this land is a quarter of an acre?
Yes.
Plus this easement?
yes,
Or, okay, so, all right.
yes.
So the impervious. I'm not-
Basically, everything they purchased is that. Yes.
So impervious is in like,
Impervious is not an issue, but it would be based upon that figure, yes.
okay. So that percentage or that quarter of an acre even includes the road?
Yes.
Do we have a number on that impervious?
I ran it just real briefly, and here again, it depends on how much of the concrete we take out when we pull up the pad. But it runs about 51%, that's not impervious.
But that's including the property that's on the road
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
and under the road and,
yes. I tried to, what I did, I took the GIS and tried to work the square footages based upon the measuring tool and, you know, that.
So here's,
Didn't think we had an issue, so we're not asking
that's
for.
the size,
any
that's the size
variance
of
on
the
that.
lot. If you're calculating just the square feet of the lot, that's the size of it. But I don't know about, is around the house going to be concrete like that? Or like it looks, or is it gonna be a yard?
That'll be yard, but then I'll take out most of that.
Now, I have one question then on this. As far as the road actually being an easement, isn't the road, the blacktop, going to be considered impervious?
That's part of the calculation for the impervious, yes. That's, I included that in the
There's nothing
calculation.
else here, that's the reason I asked the question.
Yes. And you asked the question earlier, Dan, that my client just spoke in my ear. They also have a deeded easement around the south end to get in if they need it.
To get in the garage?
Yes.
is it,
So
okay, is it,
if they
this
would
is,
need it,
this is the deeded,
they would have an easement through here.
doesn't this belong to
Yes,
here?
that would be from somebody else. That's what I'm saying, they'd have another easement for that if they need
They
it.
do have an easement?
That's what she tells me. Correct.
Where the driveway thing is now? How tall is this wall going to be between the house and the retaining wall? Is it going to be the same height it is now, or is it going to be taller?
No, that's the existing wall. We're not changing the wall.
The third wall is going to be the same.
It's just gonna stay like it is. All we're doing is cutting a hole in it for the entrance.
Okay, questions? Have any other questions, Ms. Marshall?
Yeah, let me just see what I'm. One moment. No, I basically asked the questions I had.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I asked the questions I had.
Okay,
I've asked them all.
Mr. Manaway?
Yeah, I just want a clarification on the driveway. You asked the question part of where the driveway is
Yeah.
part in. I just want clarification.
You want to show him?
They have a deeded easement to come in where the drive is now.
Okay, so you're talking right here.
Where it's centered on light, the coloration changes.
Right.
But that's, this part is going like this, concern, it's on the curve. You know, it just seems, you know, my concern is they pull up and drop somebody off there. But,
Would you show Mr. Hubler on the
oh,
camera
sorry.
we were talking about here also?
We're talking about where the pavement is versus that little bridge. Right here's
Correct.
the edge of the pavement.
Okay.
It's probably 4 or 5 feet of grass there right now.
It's gonna be grass right there. All right, thank you.
Yeah. And then the
And then-
entrance is, the existing entrance is here now, where they have a deeded easement on that to come in that
Okay.
way.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Osborne, have any questions? Mr. Hubler, do you have any other questions?
No, sir.
Questions from the audience? Please identify
This is
yourself. You. I'm sorry, is that Emily?
This is Emily, and I have a couple questions.
Emily King.
Emily, before you start, it's Lee Marshall. Sorry, I just have to take notes. Can you just tell me your address, please?
Did you understand that?
What's your address?
Oh, 18151 West Shore Circle.
Emily, we can't hear you. 1815.
18151 West Shore Circle.
Okay, thank you.
When you mentioned, did you mention that they will have another way of getting to the residence? An additional way, like cutting into that retaining wall?
They said there's an easement there where you enter into your a driveway. They said that they have an easement there to be able to get into it. Is that correct?
That is our property, yes. There is an easement that was granted 35 years ago by my aunt and my mother to the previous owners for ingress and egress. And of course, at that time, they used it, the Montgomerys used it about twice a year to store their pier and to take their pier, put their pier in the water, as well as their boat. That's the only time they used it. Now, my only concern is that now, if that is the only way to get into that garage, it's going to be used a lot more frequently than it had been. It was only used twice a year in the past. And so we have concerns about that. And I've talked to Mrs. Cook a little bit about it, because I was also concerned about the heavy equipment during the construction going over, our ramp there at the south end of their property. And I mean, I'm not doubting that they have the grant of easement for ingress and egress, but it's going to be a lot more activity than we've had it in the past. But didn't you mention that there was going to be another way, maybe a driveway or something going from that retaining wall, or not? Maybe I misheard that.
Emily? Go ahead.
That was probably me, Dave Kaiser, architect. I didn't realize they had an easement to access the south, so I assumed we were going to have to tear out part of the retaining wall to make a driveway. But I didn't know about the easement.
Okay. So does that mean you are going to make a driveway for them?
Well, probably not, since they have an easement.
The easement is it's an old concrete. I don't know how good it is. I wasn't down there looking at it.
It's not even concrete, is it, Keith?
Well, the cut through would be concrete, probably.
No, but our current,
No,
no. not. And,
it's not-
it is also used by, Gary Schaefer to take the boat lifts
Okay,
in. I mean, when my aunt and my mother signed this 35 years ago, they, the original intent was just so that they would have access to that cement slab, so that they could get their pier in and out.
This is Chuck DeWitt. I'm not an attorney, but I would say we can't speak to the intent of the easement because none of us know what anyone was thinking at that time. The easement was granted and it is still in effect at this point in time. Is that correct, Mr. Easterday?
To my knowledge, we'll check that to be sure. We'd be glad to talk to Emily about that.
Okay.
But,
So
yeah.
whatever concerns that she has, the cooks are willing to help work through and address.
Right.
Okay. So the answer is yes.
Yes to what?
That they're willing to work with Miss Emily to help minimize, alleviate, or do whatever they can to that area to make it accessible to all parties and to keep it in good condition.
Well, I'm assuming that the cooks knew about the easement, or I probably wouldn't have said anything.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure the cooks know about that because it was in with their paperwork.
anybody else from the audience have any questions? See, we have some other people listening in. There's probably two other things we're going to. Comments from the board?
My only comment would be to make sure that we do have the impervious and pervious relationship established. Chuck, if you haven't, if you look at it and whatever, but I don't want to put in your.
I'm looking at the pictures the same as you are, and we will ask for an as-built when it's done to give us the percentage. I don't see that as a problem.
I didn't see this problem. One of the reasons I'm not giving you exact figures, because I didn't personally know how much of the concrete's coming out, how much going back to, he's telling us a lot of it's going back to soil.
And I can just add, I calculated it just to get an idea, just based on what the square foot of the house, the garage was, as opposed to, that's why I was asking, does that represent the entire? And it was something like 32%. So it was pretty.
It's going to be well under because
I thought it would be too.
of the property just to the south and across the street.
And here again, I don't know exactly what they're doing for driveway and walkway and things, but I didn't see an issue with it. So we didn't ask for variance for that.
I just like to see it on every one.
Sure, yeah, well,
Yeah, I agree.
When they take out that concrete, are they gonna examine the soil and the gas tanks that are buried there?
if they follow my advice, yes. Because that's the first thing I said when I talked to Mrs. Cook many, many moons ago was, do you know that there was a marina there? And she was made aware of it, yes.
Well, it probably won't be advice, a matter of following your advice. Won't they have to by the environmental council?
No, I get it. I get it.
Well, I'm impressed that you came up with any kind of plan at all to put a house on this lot, because there's no way looking at it, I thought a house could even be put there, even with incredible setbacks. I'm not happy with the 3.5-foot setback at all. But I realize we have some circumstances there that are. What's the requirement, 20 feet? 25. Yeah, I'm still questioning about that, even if this is buildable lot. And that's kind of the way I don't.
I agree with you, Dan. I don't think an easement is buildable. I just don't know. If
We have so much trouble down, and it's probably one part of the lake that is the hardest to deal with is right in there. It's not too bad to the north. I mean, yes, the houses are very close. In fact, and I think the Cooks own the house right there, correct? The next house there. And I realize that's even closer. I mean, that's probably.
The 2 or 3 to the north are significantly closer. Yeah.
But those have been there for years, and much before the ordinance was ever set. And once the ordinance came in, I almost look at this as a non-buildable lot.
That's why we went to the retaining wall. That's because that retaining wall's been there for many years. And we felt it was appropriate to stay behind that and give the property a look that, and like you said, I think it's a good looking property in terms of the design. I think Mr. Kaiser did a beautiful job with it. Because the thing I like about it, it doesn't show height because it's set down in so well.
Barry, can you talk at all about how this fits in the plan commission's idea of or the planning of our community and things like that? How does this fit with the 3.5-foot setback off of the road? In a new construction. Can you talk about that kind of threshold a little bit for me?
Well, Chuck and I both have to deal with this quite a bit, as far as Plan Commission and Chuck as well. And myself, I think when it comes to 3.5 foot, I mean, it's obviously, as far as looking at the comprehensive plan as well as the 5-year plan, which we are at the 5 years now, we need a new one. But that was part of it too, as far as trying to, and for lack of better words, but to reduce the amount of these close quarter houses from years ago that were set so close. This being an easement makes it a whole new ballgame for us though, because if it was a road, county road, state road, or as far as Culver Street, we can enforce a setback as far as up to that 25 feet. And we'd have to come before the BZA for anything, in a reduction to that 25 feet requirement. Under these guidelines with an easement, I don't think we even have anything in the ordinance that would even require how much setback. I don't like the 3.5 feet either. And I think that we're almost setting precedents for the whole road again, just like Mr. Adams just said. We've got the biggest problem as far as setbacks and close proximity to houses in this area more than any other place we've got in the zone.
And what we've been dealing with on further south is rebuilding on the same footprint.
Right.
And allowing them to redo their foundations, but when you have a new house, that's a different story.
Right. As far as me being on the Plan Commission, which this is not anything to do with BZA, but to my preference, any new construction should always be guidelined according to setbacks. There's no hardship created when you're building a new house on a lot. Now, I do know there are cases that deviate that. because of the shape of the property, the elevation changes and things like that, can create a hardship. But under conditions like this, which like you say, it's a easement, so it's a wrench in our system. The easement itself, where do you push that setback?
Well, I don't have a vote in this, but I look at this a little bit differently than I did when this first started. Because I talked to the Cooks before they bought the property, talked to Mr. Easterday and talked to Mr. Kaiser through this process. But my thought was what you were saying, Barry, let's push that back, let's make it narrow, do whatever we need to. But we already have a structure there. The structure being that retaining wall that goes down through there. That is a structure.
That's not the primary structure.
No, it's not the primary structure, but it's a structure that's been established. So if they're staying inside of that and they're going to be lower, I think I look at it differently than I did in the beginning. To me, I would say what they're trying to do and what they are going to do is going to be better than it could have been because of that retaining wall. The retaining wall is what makes a difference. If you go down further to the south and look at Gary Craig's, the one that's going to be built next, it's right up next to the road. There's nothing there that was ever established. This has an established border along that side. So that's, to me, makes it different. There is a structure there now, and they're staying back inside of it. Large portion of the house is going to be down below what you see. So I look at it differently than I did in the beginning. I would say now, yes, to go ahead and do it. Beginning, I didn't think that way until I began looking at the property and see that it's been there and been established. So,
But if the Craig's house, for instance, if that wasn't the original footprint,
no,
there's no way.
that would be an unbuildable lot.
I agree, and I feel the same way about this itself. Because the footprint of and we did not allow them to enlarge the footprint of that.
That's correct.
And the foundation was falling apart, and according to they could replace the foundation.
Yes.
That's why we allowed them to do it. That doesn't set a precedence here simply because it's retained.
Ordinance provided that for a great time.
Well, why don't they just move the house over 10 feet and try to get a variance from the front side setback? That would be really, that would put everything within the parameters of it.
Say it again.
So if they moved it over the 10-foot setback and then required a variance from the front yard setback from 20 feet down to whatever that would be.
You're saying that 10 feet, take away 10?
Yeah, take away 10 and
So
just move
basically,
it over.
slide it towards the lake by whatever it needs to be,
Yeah.
be 10 feet off the road.
Yeah.
I think that could be palatable.
I would feel more comfortable with that.
Yeah.
I just, the way
I just feel like we're really stretching it to make this a buildable lot.
I do too.
But I just don't feel like, that's a whole lot of variances. When it says 25 from each side, we're not even close.
That would work for my clients. They could do that.
Well, I do not believe that a wall structure is considered a guideline to build a new house on. So I think that established line does not require going forward.
So what are you saying there, Gary? So I understand it better. I got a little bit lost. My mind jumped around, but you're saying that you leave it at the 3.5 foot, or would you prefer it to be 13.5 feet?
I would prefer it to be even 10.
Could go 10 feet off the road.
I mean, if you're gonna go, I say two sides of this, because I mean, I don't like encroaching the lake any more than what we have in the past. And I know when you're taking it 10 feet forward, it's causing more runoff to the lake. And I think the lake is probably the most valuable asset the town of Culver has. And I want no way in whatsoever that we ever create a problem with stuff taking that away.
Okay, but we do have in our ordinance, when we're talking about runoff, that they're going to have to retain all of the water and slow it down before it goes into the lake. And so with coming back with the more impervious area where they've got now grass and everything else, they can put retention basin there, dump their downspouts into it, slow it down, release it to the lake, which we make everybody else do as we go around.
Right.
So that would help. I mean, we're getting rid of this 100% impervious surface that we've got now. I mean, now the water hits it, where does it go? It goes to the lake, so.
I was looking at the two sides of that too, as far as with the easement, you've got one of the busiest parcels of the property comes through there, just because, I mean, it's nothing marina, but it's got landing, and I mean, you know how congested traffic gets in the summertime, spraying through the fall. But the 3-foot setback, you're putting structure, which I know the wall's still there, that was there before, but I'm not saying I like it being there before.
Right.
But there is a safety issue as well.
Correct.
Well, you gotta realize they have parking across the road too, which, they're not gonna be using that garage every time they go in and out of the house.
Right. They can still use it even when it's
So that's why I put that bridge there, so they can walk across from the driveway to go across the road to go into the house.
Somebody else had a question there?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
This is Diane Osborne, and I live at 18171 West Shore Circle. And I've just got a general question, like, why was this property originally labeled as unbuildable? And if it's purchased as unbuildable, then how all of a sudden does it go to becoming buildable? Because I know there were some other people that had looked at it, but then when they found out it couldn't be built on, then they decided they didn't want it. So how did it originally get labeled as unbuildable? Was it because the gas tanks were under it?
No, who labeled it that way? With the easement across the road and going into that changes the whole project, whether it's buildable or not buildable. The lot's bigger than what it appears to be just on the GIS.
So it was on the size of it. That's why it was labeled unbuildable. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I ask you to identify yourself too? I just said your name.
Excuse me?
Could you identify yourself again, please?
Diane Osborne.
Thank you.
So then the previous property owners, they didn't, even though that, they sold it as unbuildable, they had no idea that, considering the easements and the extra property, that would have made it buildable?
Well, and truly, if they meet the 25 feet right now, it is not buildable. And that's to the BZA.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it to meet the requirements of the zoning They cannot. Because it's got to be 25 feet from both sides. And that takes, that's why they're at the BZA.
Okay, then question, when, if they're going to be using this gate that's already down there to access their property from the south, is there going to be any kind of a barrier or gate across that blocking them from the pier area to the south? Like with kids or pets, or is there going to be some kind of restraint so they're just not running over into the area? Because I know the people that use that now, you know, there are restrictions on if there's people swimming in the water, dogs can't be over there. And the one day when there were people at Cook's, a dog came running over and went to the bathroom under the tree, and there were kids there were people in the water, and then the dog ran back, and I thought, oh dear, this is going to be trouble if there's but maybe they're planning on putting up some sort of, you know, dog barrier or something, because there are kids over there. And so I just wondered if there was anything that was going to be done concerning that, or if there was any concern about that.
The property, in other words, you can cross the property across the road. Is that what you say?
No,
No, this will be directly from their property, from like the end of their garage property that goes over into the grassy public area for people on West Shore Circle.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
That could be handled with invisible fence.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. If there were any intentions of putting that up so pets couldn't just, you know, freely run over there.
Other questions or comments?
Are we in agreement on some level that there is that they move the house? That's what the variance is?
That's
Not in a motion.
If someone put it in form of a motion.
If not, we're just going to vote on what we proposed here.
I'll make a motion that the house be moved over to satisfy the 10-foot setback from the road. And then we would have to change the variance setback from the lake front side would be
13.5 feet.
13.5 feet.
So what you're proposing is that we change it from a 3.5 feet to 10 feet?
10 feet.
And
the lakeside would be 13.5.
Do I hear a second on that motion to change that?
Second.
Never done this before. How do you vote on that? Do we have any further discussion on it? Okay, how do you vote on that proposal? Ms. Marshall?
Yes.
Mr. McManaway?
No.
Mr. Osborne?
Yes.
Mr. Bueller?
No.
And I vote no also. My feeling is it's not a buildable lot. We can go ahead with the finding of facts. But if we do, and it's turned down, we can't have another variance, so I don't know if you want to proceed with that.
I think I'd move to table it at this point in time.
Okay.
I'd like to feel some feedback. If I could.
Okay, we'll table it until the December meeting. Okay. If I understand that, we have tabled this till the December meeting. We're not going to proceed with the finding of facts at this point.
Thank you.
December?
That'll be November, not December, November. November 19th, sorry, this is just October.
Dan, I'm making a quick trip across the room.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Only one yes.
Wait for Mr. DeWitt to get back, but the next on the agenda is going to be 2020-016B, Greg and Alyssa Burns. Okay. So as soon as Mr. DeWitt comes back, move up here a little closer.
Yeah.
We're good, how are you?
Good. Quite a bit emptier now.
Yeah.
So it's a bit emptier now.
Yeah.
I know, we lost them.
I thought I was gonna have
The
an
grass,
audience that
we lost
felt a little
everybody.
better.
Soccer seats.
For sure.
That way you don't fall asleep.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Burns, if you'd like to go ahead, Mr. Burns, I feel like
Yeah. I don't know if you want to introduce us, I'll jump into the technical stuff.
Sure, yeah, so hi, Alyssa Burns, this is my husband Greg. We've been coming to Culver for years. My parents own the condo at Beachview Condominiums, the bottom left one next to the movie theater, the big white rocking chairs. And now that we're growing and getting married and hoping to expand our family one day, we purchased a home at 311 North State Street, which is why we're here this evening.
So, I've been coming here since we started dating 5+ years ago. We got married about 3 years ago, and I kind of dreamed of having a family here, raising family in this area. So I'm finishing up a master's degree, and now we're at the point where we're looking to have a place where we can start that family. So we got that place at 311 State and are looking to add the front porch off here to extend 8 feet off of the footprint of the house, which would take us to 20 feet away from the property line. And it would add around 425 square feet to the impervious structure of the land, which would take it from 53% up to 58. What we're looking at is the neighbors next to us went a little bit closer than we are, so we're backing off of that a little bit so we don't block any of their view, and we can talk to the neighbors and feel pretty good about their feelings with the plan as well. And now we'd love to answer any questions or provide any more details if you have anything you'd like to hear.
Can I just clarify your variance, because I've walked by the property, and you have a north side yard setback of 1 foot from the required 10 feet, and then you say a front yard setback of 20 feet from required 25 feet. Isn't that north side the front yard?
So I look at State Street running north-south,
Right.
right? So I said, I reviewed it as the front yard being from the front of the house to State Street.
Okay.
And so I guess I should have considered it the other way. Is that what you're saying?
No, and I may be interpreting, right?
There's a little,
Right,
there's like a
yeah,
little
that's what I
alley.
was confused too.
Yeah, there's a little alley. So if you're standing on State Street on the cobblestone, there's that alley to the right of
Yeah.
the 311 State
Yeah.
Street. That's where the 1 foot is. And that's the distance from the house to that flat top road. That's that little alleyway right now. So there's not any change there. We're just extending forward from the structure of the house, forward toward State Street.
There's,
Yeah, you're talking about on the north side,
So on
Yes.
the north side, there'd be a foot.
where the alley,
Correct. Yeah.
you say it's like, I thought that was done.
Let me say this, I'm so confused.
It might be gravel. It's like packed down, real like cinder maybe. Like, I don't know if it's not paved, but it's not cobblestone.
No,
Cobblestone
you-
like brick is on State Street. It's more the track I grew up on. It's like not paved, but not gravel.
So this extension is going out toward the sidewalk.
Yeah,
Yes, correct.
All right, we just talked that way.
Yeah, towards the sidewalk.
Towards the
I like that.
sidewalk. Okay.
What are you proposing as part of the porch? I mean, what's the height?
So the front porch would be just, we use that fake wood, the PVC, the recycled plastic stuff for the planks, and it would come out to 8 feet. And then we'd like to go up on the top level and mirror it. So it'd be first floor and second floor, and that's it. So it'd go up to be 10 feet.
You're gonna have rails,
Yes, we'd go, I think the average rail is about 3.5 feet, so we'd go 3.5.
How far off the ground is that going to be? From the ground to your
To the first,
deck, yeah.
1.5 feet.
Okay, so if it's less than 30 inches, you don't have to have a rail around that part.
I think we'll still do a rail anyways.
I
just-
mean, that's your option,
Yeah.
but you don't have to.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you letting us know.
but that would bring up my next question.
Yeah.
Because being 1 foot off that alley, if you're coming out of that alley,
Yeah,
and you have to look to see if anything's coming either way, whether it be someone on a bicycle or a car, vehicle.
Yep.
You're gonna be obstructing that turning view. Right? And normally, your front yard setback would have been 25 feet.
Right.
Because of that, and the side yard off that alley, you only got the 1 foot, so you're already extended close to that alley. Not any fault of yours.
I think the current house is on the alley a little bit. I think, if you look at the
it's.
fireplace or the
Yeah,
correct.
it's pretty. darn
chimney
close.
is right on the alley, and I think,
There's a scotia grass in between there, but you're right, it's very, very close.
yeah.
Yeah, whose house is
The
it?
light green.
Yeah, that little white green one, so the third one from
The one in front.
the corner. So if you're on the street, on the corner of the, State Street and Lake Shore, there's the White House that I kind of say looks a little bit like White Castle a little
Yeah.
bit, and we're the next one in.
Okay.
Now, there's 2 dwellings on that.
Correct.
Oh, so you're it's brick?
It's green siding,
Okay.
and there's like a little, the front, I
Black
guess,
shutters.
yeah, it's got a chimney, a stone chimney on that front,
Okay.
the north
I got you.
corner.
This is the first house I ever had to deal with when I was on the BZA.
I hope that's.
And is it next to DeWitt's
Years ago.
house? It's next to DeWitt's house, right?
No, we're talking about down Lakeside.
I think it's close.
Oh.
Yeah, so our.
Further down,
It would be a
Right,
fast
right across from the, you know where the parking is there on State Street for the park? Where you pull in there, right across from that.
Okay.
There's an alley there, because my first meeting, I think it was, one of the proposals was that they were going to have to tear the fireplace out of there because it's infringing on the alleyway. And we debated that for a long time, so this came back up, but I didn't realize that there were 2 dwellings on that also. Is that like a guest house back there, or is that?
Yeah, we joked that it's the granny pod for once we have kids, it'll be a little spot.
How long has that been there?
That's a great question. I don't know, off the top of my head, I can look it up for you.
Because that actually is you can't have 2 dwellings on one lot. That's-
That's what it's right there. It's right there. Yeah.
The front door is on the northeast.
Correct. And we'd like to keep it there.
This one right here. Yeah, this is basketball court here. There's a turnaround there. Yeah, this one. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, is that your place? Yeah, recently.
As of July.
Wait, is that it's across the street from the hills, right?
Where the gazebo and the basketball court are.
So it's like literally if we stand in our front door, we're looking at the basketball court.
Yep.
It's, those hills, Shimoleski, I'm a Shimoleski.
Okay.
Richard Drive, yeah.
Okay.
And then station's right here, and so then it goes hills, alley, and that little house right there. See, I thought it was an older woman who owned like a paving company or something.
So I don't know
We
exactly.
purchased it in July.
Yeah.
From her.
Yeah.
From Edie, I believe.
We never actually met her. Everything was virtual at that point, you know, you're signing on.
She was really mean to the previous buyer, Mrs. Brown's sons.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
my mother would not give her any.
Let's get organized again here. We're getting carried away.
Don't talk to her.
Mr. Hubler, do you have any questions, Mr. Hubler?
My question was what Mr. McManaway asked about the 1 foot in the right of way. And my other question just is about the impervious structure. And I think it was answered with the 425 square feet being added on. So I don't think I have any other questions. And you did say that the front door is in the northeast corner?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Ms. Marshall, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I was just walking in the area, the 20-foot setback. That's what I was looking on the GIS with Chuck. It just didn't seem like it was 20 feet.
Yeah.
But you're gonna be right up on the sidewalk though.
No, we'll be,
No.
the one next to us is 2.5 feet closer to the sidewalk. They're brand new porches that they just built and they're still about, I think, a foot or two off the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And ours will be further back than
Yeah.
even the neighbors.
I had the tape measure out there and adapted it.
Right.
It
Oh,
felt.
you didn't have to put anywhere near.
Yeah, they had to come to BZA, we had to approve that, so.
Yeah.
We don't set precedent.
But. Any questions, Ms. Marshall?
No.
Mr. McManaway?
I just have a question, why is it gotta be 28 feet long?
So it matches the front of the house and I didn't want it to look too funky if I just did part of the front of the house. See what I mean?
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
I just, when you're already encroaching the setback, and you wanna do the whole basement all the way across, I mean, I don't anything as far as especially on the place where is the main run right there, and it's right there by the park. And we don't set precedents, and I feel like a lot of times what BZA decides on, and be given for a hardship or whatever. I do not find a hardship in putting a 28-foot porch. That close. It's not easy.
If they went, I'm trying to look, if they went 25 feet, that would make the porch. How wide is it now? 8 feet? Is that what that says?
Yeah.
20 by 8?
Pull it back, we could pull it back closer to the house and make it 7 foot, add more impervious and have a little bit less encumbrance on that swing to the alley.
How far is your front door from the alley?
From the alley?
Yeah.
From the alley, it's right down the corner of the house where that 1 foot is, but from the
On
stage.
the picture, it looked like you had some space before that stoop on your front.
Yeah, it's maybe 2 feet, if you know. Yeah,
Not much.
not much at all. No. And that's, yeah, predominantly what I think the railing would, there's already a railing on that front little stoop.
Mhm.
And just to stop people from walking out the door without looking, stepping off.
Right,
So,
And I understand that, because I mean, in that case, you're looking at the hardship.
Sure.
You see what I'm saying? I mean,
yeah, and that's, I think where we're looking at it, the stoop's already every bit of 6 foot off the front of that. So we'd be really adding 2 feet to the front of that stoop, which is the part that's gonna be, in your eyes, I think, that blind spot for coming out of the alley. So the rest of it, I don't see blocking anything too much going the other direction towards the south part of the house.
Did I make a comment?
Just a second.
Okay.
I have nothing.
Mr. Osborne. Mr. DeWitt, do you have any comments?
I think pulling it off that alley a couple of feet makes a lot of sense. And only coming out 7 feet only improves that. So that, I think that would be a better position to bring it off the alley and then bring it back 7. So somebody coming out has that visibility, or coming in isn't up next to your house.
So on the alley, the front door is pretty much right up against that alley anyways, so I guess I don't know that I follow on yet. If, right now, that stoop's already up against the alley, so like you come out of the house right there, and it sounds like what you're asking for is for us to move the door of the house?
No, just make the depth of the porch narrower.
Oh, so just leave the front of the porch
The whole
back.
thing is coming back in toward the house by a foot.
On the east side.
So it'd be right, the 6 foot at the stoop, and then the rest of the porch would still be the 7?
Right, is that what you said, Chuck?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, I misunderstood, I apologize for that.
So are you going to put that in as a change?
If that's what he's agreeing to.
We just need to make sure we write down what we're talking about here. They agreed, and what exactly do we want to change that to?
So we cut a whole foot off the whole porch.
So it'd be a setback of 21 feet from the required 25 feet. It'd be 7 feet instead of 8 feet.
And I guess the 1 foot stays the same, right?
Well, he's requiring for the porch, so it'd be coming back to the side of the porch. Correct. It would no longer be 1 foot there, it would be whatever distance it is from the door.
Yeah, from the door.
You know, part of it would be.
I run over there.
Just say from,
That is right up to the residence.
how do you word that, Chuck? You say from the porch, existing porch over to the south?
Yeah, I think that would be, I can't say it, but that's what I was looking at.
That's what you were suggesting.
Yes.
I mean, I agree with it. And could you say from the south edge of the porch? North, south end?
Which was a setback of-
Whatever it is, and then porch beside the deck is gonna come out 7 feet.
Right.
So you need whatever the distance is from the alley to the porch.
The current little stoop that's there,
And that stoop is roughly 4 feet wide, maybe,
I think so, that sounds right.
so we're looking at 7 feet.
Mhm.
Roughly.
From the alley?
From the 10, yeah.
You want to say 7 feet, or do you want to put it from the porch, south edge of the porch?
Yeah, I'd say south of the porch, would probably be
South edge of the
better for
existing
you, I mean,
porch?
as far as
Yeah, south edge of the existing porch.
existing porch,
So you're saying it's set back to the south edge of the existing porch?
Yes,
from the 10-foot apart.
yes. That's what Barry's saying.
Yeah, that's what Barry said.
All right, sorry, Barry.
Mr. Eubler, did you understand what we're talking about there?
I did. I just wonder if Greg and Alyssa, if that just changes the whole function of their idea for how their porch would function. As you started by saying how much you wanted to be able to use it for certain things that would need access probably directly to your front of your house. So I just want to make sure that you all are understanding and comfortable of what this current version of the motion or the variance has turned into.
I don't know that I do fully understand. So at first I thought we were saying that the porch would still go the full 28 feet of the front of the house, but then it would only come forward, let's say that the whole thing comes forward 6 feet. And then a section of it further away from the alley then comes another additional foot. Is that sounding right?
I think what they're talking about
I can sketch something up,
is,
so the visual guy.
let me, I think what they're saying there is this.
Oh, perfect, yeah. Oh, drawing.
If we started here with 7,
Oh,
leave this here,
There's
so
no
we
deck
come
in
out
front of the door.
and go onto the porch. The door here, there's the existing stoop here, and then in your entrance to the porch then.
So could the stoop then be connected to part of the porch?
Sure.
So the stoop could be the same as the porch.
Right.
And right now, I think
You
that.
could change the stoop, but
Yeah.
Before it was gonna go
connect.
vertical.
So the stoop
Came
is-
out and then go on.
Yeah, the stoop is mostly under pictured there. Like it goes a full 6 feet off the front of the house.
And we've got a,
This is your door. So you come to this edge of the door.
You know, and the thing is that the area that's on the other side of that door is dead space anyway.
Anyway, I know.
It's dead space. You're not gonna never
Yeah.
set some plants.
I think from my point of view, I think functionally, I don't see the huge value of pushing it, that it's only probably a foot there difference between what we're talking about. And for the rest of the aesthetics in the neighborhood and the road and everything, I just think it'd look a little Frankenstein coming off.
That's,
Yeah.
I have to talk to them, I just want to make sure.
Can I just see the picture again?
Yeah, I
Please, thank you.
think it needs to be made loud.
I'm sorry?
Make sure.
Yeah, everyone talking same conversation, right? I think I misunderstood a little bit of what we were motioning there. That front stoop is analogous with the edge of the house. So to me, I thought we were saying that it still went up to the edge of the house and that we were then just leaving the front stoop how it was and having kind of a porch next to it that went a foot further than the rest of that stoop.
But you were still talking about the 28 feet.
Right, because that stoop, I mean, we would just build the porch the same height as the stoop and continue it on. So at that point, I'm not changing the stoop. I would just be adding a porch to the left of it, if you're standing on the street. Obviously, if I could have everything, I would just say, we'll pull the whole porch back to 6 feet, leave it to full 28, and give a little bit more so we can have even more view onto that corner. I think that's a decent compromise.
Same thing, pretty much.
Yeah, then it kind of turns into, it's not really any different for the people coming down the alley. You wouldn't have any less or more view than it is currently.
I like the idea, as long as we got enough room to use 6 foot.
That's how they use it.
And how you use
Yeah.
it.
I do have long legs.
We'll squeeze.
I'm not the whole voice here.
I don't know
It's long enough.
if you'd be okay with going that extra foot and being a foot closer, I would love that, but I understand your concern as well. So I think we would accept 6, but obviously would prefer 7, but I leave that to the judgment of the board.
So you're amending your motion?
As I say, now let's look at what we're talking about now we've re-talked stuff.
I already marked
So
that
it's-
8 and 7, now we're talking 6.
Yeah, well, you're still at the 1 foot setback, but then you'd be at a 22 feet instead of 25 to have a 6 foot.
That's now what it's suggesting.
Yeah, don't be as concerned about the setback because that's going to be granted. Be more concerned about how far it's coming off the house. Because the house is set there and we don't want anything, we're talking from the house now, rather than from the street.
Oh, so just extend it and
Yes.
say in a maximum of 6 feet.
Right.
For the depth of the
I
porch.
think that's what you want to say.
You want to make your proposal and then we'll put what you're saying.
That's an interesting way to put
There are 3
it.
different.
Can we put it that way?
Yeah.
You've got 3 different suggestions here.
I
So
think.
it sounds like we're saying the same thing.
He's saying reversible.
Yeah, we're talking about how to determine that.
Yeah,
I was saying the
ordinance.
setback, and he's saying the size of the porch. So that you'd still have the 1 foot variance on the alley side, and then the porch would be a maximum of 6 feet deep. It would still be 28 feet
6
long.
feet from
6 by 28
Yeah.
instead of 8 by 20.
but it's still,
Yeah.
Right.
it'll be 6 for 28.
I'm still gonna fight for 7, but I think 6 is very reasonable.
So do you want to, everybody agree with that? That it'd be, we'll put that it's going to be a 6 by 28 porch?
I'd like to hear.
No, I don't.
Go ahead.
Is that what we want to do?
Well, I was just saying that that's kind of what we're understanding, is he's saying he'd rather have 7 than 6.
I prefer 7, but I understand that if that's too much, I don't wanna get it denied, we'll accept 6, so yeah. I don't wanna push anybody out of their comfort zone.
What's the neighborhood?
We'll come back. But, so what you're proposing is, I'm not doing this. The board is, that's,
Well, then I'll make the motion. I motion that we approve a variance of a 1 foot setback from the north side of the property, and we approve a 7 foot extension from the house, or that means a 19 foot or 21 foot setback from the road.
I heard 21.
It was 20 before this.
so he's saying 7 foot is what he's proposing. So he made a motion that we change to that. Do I have a second on it?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. How do you vote on that motion?
Yes.
Mr. McManaway,
Clarify, you're saying what the setback will take?
be 21 feet setback from the street, which would make it a 7 foot porch.
He said, yeah.
The only thing we're changing is basically the 20 feet is going to change to 21 feet. It'll make it a 7 foot porch.
Yeah.
That's, okay, Mr.
Yeah.
Husband. Mr. Hubler,
Yes.
He made the motion.
and I vote yes also, so that's what we're changing it to. That'll just be, it'll be a 7 foot porch, that's the same thing.
That sounds great. Thank you
Okay.
very much. That was.
Well, we still haven't approved the variance. That was just what we're putting into the variance.
Okay.
I gotta sign papers.
Okay, now, comments or questions from the audience?
I was gonna say, if it's still the house that I think you're in, which I think is just across the alley, and over there across from the park, right?
Yeah.
That to their south?
North.
No,
The new house is to the south.
Yeah.
to the south.
Brown.
I get confused too.
Yeah.
They're a lot closer to the sidewalk. How are they able to achieve that? And this would be such a challenge, that's just a curiosity.
I think that's irrelevant to this case.
Well, each case is treated separately.
Yes, sir.
Every case.
But I, just to share, I cut that lawn, I took those grounds, and Mrs. Brown was handicapped in that house.
Yeah.
It's a,
Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay. Are we ready to move to finding of facts?
While they're thinking, could I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
What's your degree in?
Mechanical engineering undergrad, and I'm doing an MBA right now. So
Okay.
trying to learn the business side of stuff. It was too technical before.
Well, if you're coming to our area, I keep my ears open.
Yeah, thanks, I appreciate it. I'm doing remote software consulting engineering stuff right now, so it's kind of nice. I can do it from wherever, and this is kind of a little slice of paradise.
If you need to intern anywhere, you want to come to Marshall County and work with our IT department or anything, let me know if that helps you out.
Okay, keep that in mind.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You've impressed me, so.
Oh, thanks, I appreciate it.
And your degrees is from?
NYU,
Okay.
Purdue for undergrad, so we met at Purdue. I grew up in Lafayette, so I was one of the townies down there. My parents are IU grads, don't hold it against them, but.
Did you say NYU?
Correct.
You're at New York? Did you go with one school in New York?
So we were there for a little bit doing kind of night classes, and now the rest of it's remote, so that kind of made this pretty easy move for us. And
That's where my career was.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though I grew up here.
Yeah, we made there, moved for about a year, just to, it was a fun adventure before starting a family, and now we're obviously got a little hectic there.
Yeah.
Okay, is everybody ready? Okay, remember if you answered no on any of these three questions, you have to vote no on the variance. Question number one, based upon the evidence submitted, I find that number one, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Ms. Marshall?
Yes.
Mr. McManaway?
No.
Did you say no?
No.
Mr. Osborne?
Yes.
Mr. Hubler?
Yes.
Yes. And the chair votes yes. Number two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Ms. Marshall?
Yes.
Mr. McManaway?
Yeah.
Mr. Osborne?
Yes.
Mr. Hubler?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Number three, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. Ms. Marshall?
Yes.
Mr. McManaway? Mr. Osborne?
Yes.
Mr. Hubler?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. I would entertain a motion that we approve this variance.
I'll make the motion.
It's been moved by Mr. Osborne. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
And I should say, approve the amended variance. The only thing that changes is the 21 feet instead of 20 feet, the required 25. Any further discussion, questions before we vote? Okay, how do you vote on this variance, Ms. Marshall?
Yes.
Mr. McManaway?
No.
Mr. Osborne?
Yes.
Mr. Hubler?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Okay, we've approved it.
Awesome, now thank you.
Thank you.
And there's one word, otherwise I'll stop and chat and be too social.
That's it? Okay.
You're done.
Thank you.
Okay, our last variance we're gonna look at today is 2020-017B. And this is by Vernon Shimaleski. I should know how to pronounce that.
Or to show this gentleman here. You see this? Your stuff?
Yep. I have a copy too. I have a copy of it.
Okay, okay. Let me see that. Finally found a place that I can keep my cars. I looked for a long time and was very fortunate to run into Bill Lambert, who owned a big piece of property that included where the new Dollar General is, the Larry's Place, and then this strip of land that was next to Larry's Place that has a garage that's pushed back, and everybody thought it was a part of Larry's, but it isn't. It was a separate piece of property that ran 50 by 250, and I purchased it. The property itself, the roof has about 8 leaks in it. It's a truss formed roof, and it is approximately 1,280 square feet inside. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to raise the roof, and so I can put car lifts in there. I have a fair number of classic cars, and I intended to store them on top of one another in a stack. And the only way to do that is I have to have a 12-foot interior roof to allow me to do that. And an architect friend of mine, using Beacon, shared to meet the rules of the board, mapped out the details of that on here. There's an ordinance, Mr. DeWitt informed me of that ordinance, that when the property is only so big, you can't expand upon the property, but there's a sentence in the ordinance. If you can read that particular ordinance, because I was not able to find it. It says, I want to raise up, but you cannot increase the amount of space on the property, but nothing says in the variance that you cannot go up. But by going up, I increase the amount of percentage. If you could better explain it, Mr. DeWitt, I really appreciate it.
They're non-conforming right now off of the side property lines. Going up increases the non-conformity. That's why they needed to come to get a variance. Because now, instead of having 8 feet up to the eaves of non-conformity, now they're going to have 12 feet of non-conformity. So that's why we had him come before the board he's increasing non-conformity, the amount of square feet that he's encroaching into that setback area. So that's why we had him come before the board, because of the increase of non-conformity. So if he's not going out any wider, we discussed every way possible, but he's not going out any wider, any closer to the property lines. He's just going up, straight up.
And the pad is perfect. The person who, the Edgington family on the lumber yard at one time built Larry Boatsmith's house. And they built his outhouse, which after talking to Mr. Edgington, used as an office and a place for his equipment. The pad itself is in phenomenally perfect condition. And unfortunately, the roof is bad. I would have to replace the roof anyway, because it's leaking in 8 different places. I figure it's a 35-year-old building, so it makes perfect sense to consider what I want to do in that building, since I'm going to replace the roof anyway.
Are you going to put a driveway back to it, or?
I haven't gotten that far. I've been waiting for a conversation with ComEd. I've been trying to, I talked with Ty Adley about getting an address for that property, which is kind of a hard thing to do. He talked about if I get an address, I have to do some sort of driveway application. I'm kind of going by his lead. But right now, the first thing is to get my cars off the street and into something so that I don't have to endure another winter. So this is kind of the first step.
I see you're planning on putting a 6-foot fence in also.
That is the goal to
chain link or solid.
No, I'd like to do something decorative, actually. I thought, I'm researching the different style of fences right now. I'd like to do something that encloses the back part of the property and then the front to a certain degree, but it's kind of looking at some things, something extremely decorative in front that still gives me the security I need. So I know I'm going to be putting a camera system in there so I can see what things are going on and have that set up on my phone. add some other features where, not to disturb the neighbors, but if someone walks on my property, I want to know about it. So that's about it.
So this, you just own this strip, this
Correct.
doesn't belong to you?
No. That's Larry Boatsma's on one side and Mr. Kopp is on the other. He's over here.
Okay. Right.
How many cars are you gonna be able to put in there, Bernard?
I figure 4 car lifts would give me 8 cars. But I wasn't gonna go beyond that. And then still give me some space in there to add some cabinetry to, I like things out of sight. So even if I had tools there, I'd like to put doors on it and put the stuff inside and shut the door and not look at it, you know? So I was gonna treat it more like a man cave than I was gonna treat it like a tool shed, you know? I already got the flooring, I'm considering putting a sport court flooring in, because I own right now 18,000 square feet of sport court flooring that I haven't used for.
Actually, isn't your property residential and not commercial? Yeah, this says it's commercial,
Mine is S1.
but I'm saying the residence next door is not a commercial building. It's resident, but that's,
It's residential on both sides.
I'm sorry.
It's my house on one side and Larry's on the other, so it's residential on both sides. Down the other one. So
It's S1, Mr.
S1 for both, but one, they're used residential.
Correct.
In the previous meeting, or in a previous meeting earlier this year, I believe, which you were present, I was well informed on how I can and cannot use the property. And I don't intend to challenge that, so it's not gonna be any kind of commercial activity there.
What's the current height of the building right now, Vernon?
Current height, I'm just gonna reflect on this.
You see, you want to make it 16.9, it looks like maybe 12?
Something looks like that.
I'm thinking 12. Right now, it's got a drop ceiling in there, so I'm not sure. Other than from the drawing itself. But it's, I want to say it's got a 8-foot drop ceiling in there.
Well, it looks like, yeah, but it looks like it goes a little bit higher than the 12-foot interior ceiling, so, yeah, it's probably 12 and a half, maybe. So we're talking about making it basically 4 feet higher.
Yes.
9-foot doors, right?
8.5 feet.
8.5 feet. I'm definitely gonna make the doorways wider. I've been talking with the architect and the best way to do that, because as I was pulling in one of my cars, I got really darn close and then thought to myself, oh my God, I don't want to have that challenge. And there's room to expand. I was thinking maybe expand just one of the doors over rather than both. There's some ability to maneuver in there.
When was this made into a separate lot? Do you have any idea?
No, but I know that Mr. Lambert purchased it as a separate lot.
Really?
Yeah.
So he added his property. Not combined as far as two properties, one.
I believe actually it was 2 properties. I believe this was an easement road from, I went back, I'm doing some research about the property way back when the Dillons owned it. And then the Academy bought in, the Edgerton bought in, the guy in the corner bought in. And then Lambert got it from Edgerton, who went into foreclosure and got all the property that encompassed mine and Larry Boatsma and the dollar store. Got it all at once from Edgerton. Edgerton is the first one that owned it first.
So how long has it been since structure.
And I talked to Edgington, he said it's been there 35 years.
35 years.
On the other side of your property, that looks like another easement, about the same width that goes back.
There's a 60-foot easement going back for access road back to the other one. My lot is the last one, lot 9 of Max and Cucky Acres, which was an allotment. Someone's, I think the bill was the easement should set it up.
And on the other side of that easement, is that the
There's
cows
one
over
more
there?
lot, and then there's the cow's house. Against the tree.
So there's an empty lot between the cows and,
And the easement, yes. Now, one potential issue is that there is a discrepancy in that his northwest pin is west of my northeast pin by about 5 feet. So,
Well, actually, I did a lot of research on the last week or so. And what I was going to talk with you a little later was, I found a discrepancy in the survey done by Plymouth Survey Company that was paid by the academy for all of the properties. So when I went to look at talking with the surveyor about working for me, I asked him, how does he create a survey? And he says, well, I do all this research, that's the reason for my expense. I said, well, that's what I do, research. So I dug in, and where the discrepancy is on that one survey, which has everyone who takes a survey takes the previous survey information into account, but they haven't accounted for the actual true space that is listed on the deeds themselves. So that survey, and I already talked to the academy also. So I said that you, me, and the academy need to sit down and have a cup of coffee, because I'm not about to lose 6 feet after I purchase something. I'm thinking maybe they can give you 6 feet on the other side. And they are open to that discussion. So we'll talk about that. That's another story. We'll talk about that in a minute. After your meeting, exactly. We're talking about raising a roof up. That's what right now.
so we're not talking about changing the footprint of the building at all, it's just raising the height.
No, no, sir. We're not gonna.
Anybody have any questions?
I do, I guess, and it's not to learn, it's more to, we've already got a existing accessory structure on a lot, which on ordinance, you don't have to do primary structure built first before an accessory structure. Now, he bought the lot with it on it. And would we be creating a reason to build onto this accessory structure still with no permanent structure? I mean, is that?
It's a non-conforming
structure.
it's non-conforming structure of record. So
Right.
we can't.
So can you authorize additions to a non-conforming structure?
Sure, there's no reason you can't. It's already there. So it's non-conforming structure of record, meaning that it was there before zoning and everything went into place. So it has a right to be there, and we can't go back and change that part of it. So if he wants to raise it up, which is what he wants to do, then we're just adding to a non-conforming building.
We're not making it more non-conforming.
Correct.
Basically.
Right.
Except for the height.
Right.
Right, the height. I know there was an argument over that for a long time.
Right.
I went around the neighborhood and talked to as many neighbors as I could, and got a number of them to support my endeavors there.
You want me to read that, Dan?
Do you have any future ideas or goals for this property?
I'd like to beautify it.
I mean, I'm talking about as far as goals, what might if you don't have the car garage, you might want to do something else later on,
You know,
future prospects.
you know what I'd love to do, honestly, after I started digging in on what this was all about, because the other day I even mowed the lawn in front of Larry's place, right? So,
More to it.
well, it took a little while to get through the 3-foot weeds, but that's, you know what, the guy's hurting, I'll help him out, you know, I'm a good neighbor, that's what I do. So, I thought about maybe buying Larry's place. That's gonna be a very future opportunity, I hope will come our way, so.
Here's the,
I'm just curious.
here's the letter. I'll read it into the record and then pass it on to you. It says, "Dear Culver neighbor, I recently acquired the property with the garage on the back of the property that resides on State Road 10 between the Blue House and Mr. Boatsmith's house. You might have received a notice recently from the town of Culver. I'm contacting you to gain your support for the improvements I hope to make to the property in your neighborhood. I have petitioned the town of Culver, Marshall County, to raise the roof on the property to a 12-foot interior ceiling and beautify the current building and grounds. It's been my understanding that the garage has been an eyesore. I'm intending to better the aesthetic look of the building and land, which will only assist in increasing our neighborhood property values. May I have your support for my building improvements? By signing below, you support my improvements." And it is signed 9/29/20 by Rebecca Bogus, Dollar General Store, which must be the manager there.
Cheers.
9/29/20 by Telev Lidenzma, Frida's Restaurant. Okay,
It's one of the owners,
the Frida's Restaurant.
yeah.
And then by Robbie Ringer, Ace Hardware. Brenda Wynn, 18870 State Road 10, Culver. By Culver Storage, and that's Steve Osborne, okay? And this is 1125B North Lakeshore Drive, and that's Colleen Stevens.
Two of the ladies were from the pet store.
Okay, and then Tanya Hoptel, and that's 1125 North Lakeshore. And then Stan M. McMahon, 1125 North Lakeshore in Culver. That is the end of it. And I'll pass this off to you.
We'll just stick that with the files here.
He just, we're gonna take some copy of the names.
I talked to the academy and they told me that they were neutral about it, so they were not intending to oppose it. Same thing with the opposing other dollar store, they wanted to be neutral as well, they weren't gonna come and oppose it.
Okay, Mr. Eula, did you have any further questions?
No, sir.
Anybody else have further questions?
Yep, and
Okay. I'm going to open it up to public. Anybody have any questions or comments?
The only thing I do, particularly, I can't think of anything offhand.
I'm sorry?
I can't think of anything offhand.
Ready to move to finding facts? Go ahead.
If you have to realize, stacking cars on top of the fire hazard, as far as.
There's no fire hazard in second fire, what do you mean?
Well, there is. But
Well,
one catches on fire, everything catches on fire, and it becomes a deal if you got gas tanks. I know it's happening.
I read about that a little bit. It was, I'll tell you what, I'll give you my word. I'm gonna try to not fill up the gas tank and then stick it up in the air. I mean,
This is just for your own preference. I'm no car geek too, so, and you know, I mean, probably, you'll know
the old Nova.
63 Nova SF.
I haven't seen it around, but yeah,
You saw it back when we were gonna have a playground lake, but anyway, it was red.
Well, we'll have to have an outing sometime,
But
come see
anyway.
what you got.
But yeah, I just knew, just for your sake.
Okay, gonna move the findings of fact.
I got it. Here.
I'll add some safety measures in there, no problem.
Thank you, concern. I was just,
I over safety things, I'm a Coast Guard captain, I'm over safety everything. It's kind of what I do, so, thank you for that thought, though. That was a good thought. Maybe add some, ventilation, some, I know, I intend, absolutely do intend to do that.
I'm sorry. I still don't understand. No, we don't have a motion. That's part of the finding. Okay, here's what the finding fact.
All the other ones are just separate motions.
Yeah.
what things different times
16. Oh, now on this,
on the zoning, this
Yeah.
one, it can be,
16.
you get that recommendation.
Okay, we all ready? Remember, if you vote no on any of these three questions, you'll have to vote no on the variance. Based upon the evidence submitted, I find that number one, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Ms. Marshall,
Yes.
Mr. McManaway,
Yes.
Mr. Osborne,
Yes.
Mr. Eudler,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Number two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Ms. Marshall,
Yes.
Mr. McManaway,
Yes.
Mr. Osborne,
Yes.
Mr. Eudler,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Number three, the strict application of zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. Ms. Marshall,
Yes.
Mr. McManaway,
Yes.
Mr. Osborne,
Yes.
Mr. Eudler,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. I've entertained a motion that we approve this variance.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, been moved by Mr. Osborne to approve this variance. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Mr. McManaway seconds. Any further discussion? Okay. And how do you vote on the variance, Ms. Marshall?
Yes.
Mr. McManaway? Mr. Osborne?
Yes.
Mr. Eudler?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Approved 5-0.
Thank you, everybody, I really appreciate you, thank you so much. Your dream come true.
Okay, let's move on to old business. Do you have any other old business? Mr. Wood, do you have anything old business for us?
I think we've done enough of that tonight.
Okay.
I think you're right. Yeah, thank you.
New business?
Please and thank you.
We did the new business. We did the new business in reverse.
That's true.
We had Kevin
Do you
do
have
the new
anything
business.
else new coming up? You know of?
No.
Okay. The other parts of the minutes over there? You had the other parts of the minutes. I only have one you signed, didn't I?
We were looking at. I don't know, ain't mine. There you go. We figured that one out, didn't we? That's why he's president.
That's right, yeah.
Well, it looks like we're gonna have one thing on the November meeting. But anything else expecting?
Not at this time.
Do you have anything else to report?
We're working on institutional zoning with the Plan Commission and with the CMA and Culver Community Schools.
Okay.
We had a meeting a week ago. We meet next week again on Wednesday. So trying to wrap our heads around it. And we have Mr. McManaway and Ms. Marshall are both on that committee. And
Are you on the team?
No, I think.
you're not, Chester is,
Chester.
yes.
I'm
I was gonna say, did
the audience.
Yeah, you were there, but
Yeah.
so, I think that's all we have.
How's your son doing, JD?
Oh, thanks for asking. He's doing well. He's Friday's the 10th day, so as we know, that's a big deal, and he's been okay. And so far, both Emily and I have both tested negative twice now, so we're getting close here.
Good.
Good.
Glad to hear that.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
We have nothing else? Yes.
What's next then? Is there something I need to do in addition to what I've done already?
You'll apply for a permit
Okay.
and
For everything that's necessary to accomplish that goal then, and all the permits made at the same time?
your variance was for the 16'9". That's what you got the variance for. So you'll apply for a building permit to be able to do that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, guys.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
I second.
Thanks, JD.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good
Take
night.
care.
You were gonna stop by the other day.
I know, you know how it is.
Feel free to stop by on your way out of town. Writing's more impressive at night anyhow.
Yeah.
Working? Probably working.
Yeah, I know, that's right.
Ask me about contractors and how.
Yeah. I said, oh, I know
You know,
Larry.